Hi, Stevie. How are you?
Good, thank you.
And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to interview you.
Thank you.
So, friends, we have Stevie, a very, very unique coach. So let me tell you something about Stevie. Stevie is a religious trauma specialist who creates an environment of safety and empowerment for people harmed by religious trauma. So, friends, underline the word harmed. And she has been working with clients from a wide variety of backgrounds, including ex-Muslim, former Jehovah Witness, Christian Scientist, Catholic, Greek Orthodox, Jewish, and more. Still specializes in helping her clients heal from the effects that religion has had on their lives without talking about the past or spending years in therapy. So, friends, underline the trauma and without spending years. Something is unique about her. So, she has extensive experience as a trauma-informed somatic coach, NLP practitioner, and hypnotherapist. So let us go more about finding in her own words, because she uses these skills to help people with anxiety, depression, and many other mental health concerns to find relief through changing patterns in their subconscious mind and body system. So, Stevie, over to you. How did you get into coaching?
Great question. Well, obviously my own background was a bit tumultuous. It was, it looked really good from the outside. So growing up, I grew up on a cattle ranch out in the middle of a very tiny town in Washington state of the States. And yeah, it was, we looked very close, loving, and I didn't have a terrible childhood. The hard part that came in was the religious part.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's how, the foundations, I guess, started. And then through the years, how did I get into coaching? Like fast forward to how that happened was because when I left a homeschooled, highly religious, very subjugated and controlled environment, and went to college and, got in relationships and all that sort of stuff. Well, you start realizing that there are things that aren't normal about yourself, or you feel you're not normal. At age 13, 14, I started having traumatic nightmares, and I couldn't tell my parents about them because they were very religiously based. They were demons choking me, and amongst a lot of other really yucky things that happened in those particular dreams, but they were very vivid as well. And they felt real. I felt like I was awake while they were happening. And that went on for almost about 15, 16 years of my life. So I knew I wasn't normal. And then, of course, when I went to college, because I didn't know anything about really the outside world, and I didn't have a normal education. My education was very controlled, and it was very based around the ideals of the religion that I was brought up in. Yeah, I didn't have normal history background. I didn't have science. I didn't have, so I was a little bit off socially, a lot off socially as well. So I had anxiety, I had depression, I had social anxiety. There was, I couldn't focus on things. I couldn't make my own decisions. I was very subjugated, meaning, I kept quiet, or let people push me around, or let people treat me terrible, friends and boyfriends and that sort of thing. So all of that sort of compounded, and over the years, and the anxiety was real. It was very palpable. Every night I had anxiety because I had insomnia, because I was afraid to go to sleep because of the nightmares. I mean, it was compounding. And so, I spent a lot of years sort of trying to figure myself out. I traveled a lot. I quit school. I did a lot of other things in between, all of that stuff and becoming a coach. But I became a coach because when I learned, I started seeing therapists and that sort of thing, and learned about coaching. And back then it was, 15 years ago, and it's kind of a new thing. And I learned about Tony Robbins, and I just found it so empowering and so exciting. And so change driving, and it really made me want to be a better person. And so that's when I decided to actually become my own coach. Like I had a few coaches of my own, I had a few therapists of my own, but I thought, I want to learn how this works. Like, what are they doing to me to help me change? I want to know the guts and the processes and everything behind it. And so that's when I went to school here in Australia, in Melbourne, to the Coaching Institute for 2 years to become an advanced, life coach and NLP practitioner, hypnotherapist, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
Okay. So, Stevie, here is my next question. Like, generally, the public notion is like, okay, I want to be coached by someone who is perfect. And here you are telling that, you had been through anxiety, you had been through depression, you had been through therapists or coaches. So why are you so open telling your story? Because,
Well,
there is no mask. There's no mask. What made you to, okay, I had been this is truth, and this is what I am. What made you to tell your story so comfortably, provided you know that this is being recorded and you're comfortable telling your story?
Thank you for asking that. That's really interesting. I find that as well in this sort of industry of people trying to be perfect. And
Yeah.
I think it's because prior to focusing on religious trauma and bringing all my skills into that area, I did dabble first in health and wellness. So I became like a mindset coach and a weight loss coach and confidence and all that sort of stuff. And then from there, I became a career coach, and I was head career coach for a big company and all that sort of stuff too. And in each of those areas, I was always playing that role. I was trying to be perfect and pretend the whole time. And I found it exhausting. And it actually blocked me from being able to just be authentic and be real and tell, like, I don't personally actually want a coach or a therapist who is perfect, because they'll have absolutely, like, if I can compare it to my mom, this is going to sound really funny. But my mom, because she keeps herself in a very she keeps herself perfect as she can by not doing anything with her life, or doing bad things, or whatever you want to call it. She can't relate to a lot of people. She can't go out and have normal conversations, and she's never ever been able to help me with any of my issues or social things, or even my dreams and my desires and my goals. She could never understand them, because she stayed, in her ideal world, which is her religion, her perfect motherhood, and, one man only kind of a thing, and doesn't venture outside and have any experiences outside of that. And I think I can never go to her for advice. So how can I go to a therapist or a coach or anybody else that hasn't done things with their lives and explain what I've done and all the stories I have, and get any sort of help? Because they have no clue what that would even feel like, or why I would even be driven to do that, or anything. So I'm happy being authentic, and I'm happy being open about everything. It's an overcoming.
Yeah, you're happy removing your masks.
Absolutely. I wore a mask my entire childhood. I'm not doing it anymore.
Okay. Maybe that's where the non-judgmental aspects of coach comes out of you. Like, any person comes and shares anything under the sun, and you're here, hey, dude, I'm not here to judge you, I'm here to help you, like unconditionally.
Absolutely. Because there's nothing worse, I went to college to be a dental assistant, and in that particular field, they teach you, just like doctors and all that stuff, not to have any sort of, just nothing on your face when someone explains what they do, right? They teach you that at that time, because you can't act shocked when people tell you anything. Well, the same thing happens when you're a coach. Like, you might be able to not act shocked, but it's even better when you're not shocked at all. It's even better when you're like, yeah, I've been there. I did that myself. I know exactly why you're there. So I just prefer to have experience and share that experience. And that way people know that they can overcome their own blocks or, addictions or whatever it is that they went through. So, yeah.
Let's say because I'm talking about the authenticity, non-labeling, and unmasking ourselves. Let's say someone is sharing their traumatic religious experience they have gone through, and it brought tears into your eyes, and then would you let those tears, or would you stop yourself? Hey, I'm coach now. Should I need to be like at the vulnerable point where you are also like open, your emotions are also coming up. So how do you do?
That's a good question. It's been a long time since that's ever happened because I'm very, I guess I'm aware that anything can happen. You know, I've talked to a lot of people that have experienced rape or molestation or, you know, just all kinds of things. So I guess now I don't really cry so much. I can still empathize for sure. And I hear stories of, you know, horrible things, and I can obviously empathize. But my awareness now as a coach, as a helper and a therapist, is that I need to help the person overcome that particular trigger, the trigger that's going on. So I can empathize, but I don't end up crying. But I wouldn't stop it. Like when it first happened, I would just say that. I was like, oh my gosh, you're going to make me cry. I was like, okay, let's, you know, get back into breathing, and let's take the breathing back to, you know, to a different level so that we can both get back on track here and that sort of thing. So yeah, that happened at the start. Definitely. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And
Sure.
Stevie, you said you had been a career coach, base coach, confidence coach, and etc. How did you land up? How did you land up into religious stuff?
Yeah. It's a great question. Well, as a career coach, I was um, teaching people that they can have their dream life and they can create the career that they want and all that sort of stuff. However, I was going to work every day. I was working nonstop. I would work through lunch because we were so busy, and I was helping another coach build her career business. That was hers, and I was her head coach. And I felt really inauthentic because I was teaching people they can have what their dream, and I wasn't living my dream. I hate working in cubicles and offices, and I hate sitting at my desk, you know, for 8-9 hours a day and not having lunch and not having freedom. And so during that time, I thought, you know, I'm really passionate about helping people. Okay, I was passionate about my own journey. Let's put it that way. The truth is, I was like, I went through this trauma, this religious trauma. I was reading books on it. I was studying it. I was talking to people, and at night when I would get home from work, I was interviewing people around the world that had what thought they had religious trauma. So I was asking them lots of questions, and I was taking notes, and I was reading books. I was just like really looking into it. And then finally, you know, I thought, this is where I need to put my experience, because this is what I went through. This is exactly what I had to get through, get over, get past, and change in order to change my life. And they didn't have a name for it up until recently, you know, the last couple of years. And when the name sort of started getting thrown out there called religious trauma, I was like, this is something I need to do. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So very less about men is discussed in the mental health industry. So let us come from there. And then there are a lot of questions about women as well. It's a huge list of questions, but I want to start with the men part. Like, you know, men are not allowed to cry. You are a man, you have to, and then this and that, like, you know, and then comes a lot of religious rules now. Like, you're a man, you should be like this. You should be. And I was surprised, like, certain religious teachings were like, you have to uh, keep your wife under your control.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of burden a man goes through. And he doesn't even know what kind of man he has turned into because of those teachings.
That's right.
Now he cannot cry. A man shouldn't cry now. That is like, my God, like, it's going through the trauma, but he cannot
Yeah.
cry. He cannot be himself. And what? what kind of help specialists like you
Hmm.
help them and get them to lead normal life still?
It's a good question. And it really comes down to the client because they're going to have a specific, there's going to be something very, very specific to them that bothers them. But overall, it comes back to that main thing where in any religion at any time, the whole premise, the whole foundation of it is about the wrongness of the person. It's the inadequacy, the wrongness of the person. And then you're supposed to build yourself from a foundation of wrongness and somehow fix that. And it requires something outside of yourself to fix. And so be it man or woman, it all comes back to that whole I am not enough. There's something wrong with me. And, if I cry, I'm wrong. If I don't cry in certain situations, because, in church, for instance, a lot of men that go up to the altar or whatever will in that specific experience or area or community are going to be allowed to cry. But then typically, and that's only recently, but
Recently,
you've got very recently
thankfully.
going yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So of course it comes back to what he wants to fix specifically, but it comes back that's the foundation. And so as long as we can get to the foundation of, let's say the guy needs to express his love, let's say, for his wife or his partner or whatever, and he just can't quite do it because he doesn't know if that's too much or that sort of thing. It's really about allowing a vulnerability, yet coming from a place of rightness. It's about teaching that person and allowing that person to neurologically recondition themselves from a place of rightness first. And then the cards start to fall, because if they're coming from a place of rightness, they'll be able to go to their wife, their partner, their whoever, and be vulnerable and cry if they need to and be comfortable. Maybe not in front of their parents or other peers, but it's going to be up to that person what they want to be able to do. So yeah.
And this is a sad truth, Stevie, that some of the men have been, of course, women also. This is a generic question. By religious heads have been sexually molested them, and
Mm-hmm.
they could not tell to anyone, and that left. And the most pathetic thing is they were made to believe that they were. It is a sin if they go out and tell to someone.
Oh
And
yeah.
yes, they have been firstly they have been sexually molested by their religious heads whom they were seeing as some authority figure, go to
Yes.
guys, and then they were made to feel guilty, and they were threatened not to open about it.
Yeah,
And it has created a huge trauma inside them. So
absolutely.
did you work with such kind of people, and what the
Yes.
results are? Yeah.
Yeah, that's obviously, yeah, I do work with people that have come from that side, women as well, that have got, men and
Yes.
women, both. This is a transgenerational trauma that we're talking about, though. This is thousands of years of this being allowed to continue on and on and on. So there was, for instance, there was a study that was done. So when all of these preachers back in the 80s, actually, from the Catholic Church were found to be molesting children. Of course, it didn't come out. They didn't get in trouble. And it really hasn't even come out except until recently. But these guys were sent to a place to get psychologically evaluated by Catholic psychologists as well. But this particular Catholic psychologist, him and his wife were a team. And they said when they did their studies on these guys that there was an actual phenomena. And the phenomena was that these preachers were actually stuck in this 12-year-old boy or 12-year-old child mindset. So you got grown men sexually abusing young men and women, and causing a trauma after generation after generation after generation, and causing these people to get stuck in this sort of mindset around sexuality and wrongness again, and shame and guilt and all that sort of stuff too. It's completely wrong, but it's been going on for so long and been allowed to go along for so long. It's like the chicken and the egg situation. Yeah. Where do you even start? So the only thing that you can start with, of course, is the person that if I'm working with someone like that, is to negate or neutralize the shame and the guilt around that particular situation. It doesn't make the person that did it to them, right. That's very wrong. And it doesn't stop that whole, like, it depends on the person who I'm working with, if they're wanting to forgive and move on. But the main thing that the person I'm working with has to do in order for their life to move forward is to neutralize that shame and guilt. Because as long as they keep shaming themselves and wronging themselves and going in that thinking, feeling loop neurologically, they have the potential to not only have, and a lot of them do, a lot of relationship issues and sexual issues in their own life, but then they have the potential to pass that down, because typically hurt people do hurt people, which is sad, but true. And that's what we've been seeing for a long time. So it is up to the person I'm working with, or the person that wants to heal, to neutralize. It's about taking that trigger out so it doesn't cause an emotion anymore. Because when that emotion comes up, it'll trigger more thought, feeling loops of guilt and shame. So if we can get rid of that trigger, yes, you'll have the memory of it. Yes, you'll have the wisdom that came from it. And yes, you'll still know that it did happen, but it won't continue to trigger and keep that upset going on and on and on, so that it, destroys the potential of your relationships for the rest of your life.
Okay, right. Thank you.
That makes sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And
Sure.
I love your openness to answer all sort of questions. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let's get started with you again. So women are not allowed to dress in a particular way, or there's a tattoo I see, so please tell, like.
I've got lots. I've got so many.
Yes. So yeah, I have heard or listened from certain people that you shouldn't get the tattoo done, and it is sin. So why did you commit sin, Stevie?
I've committed many sins.
Kidding.
So many.
Yeah.
Look, this is just one of them. This is an art form. Look, I don't see sin the way that I was brought up to see sin. And I think that, sure, maybe my very first tattoo, which I can't show you because it's in a private area. It was actually something I did at 19 years old when I was deconverting and trying to figure out my life. And it was, it was fun. I had a blast. I also got a tarot card reading at that time. And I'll tell you the truth, I was shaking. Like with that first time I got a tarot card reading, I was literally shaking. And the lady was looking at me, because I didn't tell her my background. She was looking at me really funny, like, are you going to be okay? Because I thought I would walk out of that room and get, like shot down by lightning and that sort of thing. So I truly thought I was committing sin doing the things I was doing, but I didn't care because I knew what I was doing wasn't working. I had had nightmares for 15 years and I prayed to Jesus to help me and he never came. So I knew there was something wrong. I also knew there was something wrong because I didn't have the love and the relationship I shouldn't say I didn't have love. My parents are loving people and they still are very loving people. They are just very, very much trapped in their belief system. So at that time we butted heads. I was off to college. I was rebelling. I was drinking. I was doing drugs. I was dating. I was getting tattoos. I was doing whatever. And so back then I thought it was naughty, but I was enjoying it for the first time. I was also sleeping for the first time in a long time too, because I had discovered alcohol put you to sleep. Not the best thing ever, but I was experimenting with myself, and over time, and obviously over education and learning and dealing with a lot of things, I realized that these things are not sins. In fact, there's a lot of stuff taken out of the Bible, for instance, like King David. Apparently, if you look at some of the historical reports and that sort of thing, he was God's chosen favorite king and he was covered in tattoos. So that's just one person's, report or whatever. But and then you look at tribal, and that was the other thing is have very, very much been interested in tribal beliefs, and I've traveled around a lot of the world and looked into a lot of the different belief systems around the world. And I saw a lot of people have tattoos and piercings. I got my nose ring in
Yeah.
India,
What?
you
Oh,
know?
is
So
it? I've been
yeah,
to India. Okay, nice to know.
yeah, I love it. India was one of the most transformative places I've ever been in my entire life. I loved it. I loved it. So yeah, I mean, and the women there were required to get that. That's part of their belief system is to have a nose ring. So whenever I went anywhere, I kind of, in fact, every tattoo I have is for some place that I've been.
Excellent.
And yeah, it's like that. So I just experienced it as part of my life journey. Yeah.
And this is like a question which has been from thousands of years that women should dress in a particular way
Mm,
only. Should.
yeah.
What's your perspective about that, Stevie?
Well, I was required as well to dress a certain way growing up.
Mhm.
Now, because we had a cattle ranch, that for me, it wasn't long skirts. A lot of women, and I saw, I was raised around a couple of different sex groups of belief. They believed in two different things, and the women there had to wear full dresses, hats, the whole thing.
Mm.
And I had to wear cowboy boots, long pants, and shirts that came up, to here.
Mm.
And on a hot day, I was allowed to wear a tank top, no sleeves. If, it gets hot where I grew up, and we're working with animals and we're on a farm and it's like that. So as long as everything was covered, I could still show my arms and my family, but yeah, nothing very low from my neck down. And it's always in religions for thousands of years, again, it's been a man's world. So
Yes.
it's the woman's fault if the man gets turned on. It's the woman's fault if he rapes her. It's the woman's fault if she asks a question and isn't just a trusting. It's always the woman's fault. And it's ridiculous. It's 100%, like it's so misogynistic and ridiculous. It also is not, it's just not fair. I went to Turkey recently, and going over there in that heat and experiencing the women having to wear full gloves. I mean, literally nothing but their eyes showing. We've all seen that. Not being able to feel the wind in their hair, or the breeze on their legs or whatever. It's so misogynistic and wrong and inhumane that it's even still happening. I can't believe it's still happening. And that's one of my missions, is to really continue to drive what I talk about so that we can start breaking down these systems. And I know people that are in love with their particular deity and their particular God are not going to like hearing that. But we've got to become more humane as a human population, and keeping women subjugated like that and not allowed to express themselves and not allowed to speak up, not allowed to wear what they want to, and allowing men to continue not having any responsibility around their own ability to control their emotions and their actions and their behaviors it's wrong. And it's not allowing the world, we're not allowing the human race to evolve and continue to change by doing that. We're keeping us small.
Okay. So, Stevie, here is another question. Like, say, if
Yeah,
a person is comfortable with their religious dressing, it is absolutely their personal choice.
totally.
Nothing wrong with that.
100%.
But now comes, there is a rebellious thing. See, what I feel is like, I like Buddha's way of middle path. Extreme of anything is not good. So
Yep.
just because someone was suppressed, start self-sabotaging. Like, okay, I was not allowed to drink. Let me drink too much. Let me
Yeah.
drug myself. Let me do that. And they have also landed up in very, very shitty
Yeah.
stages of their life because of, in the name of freedom, in the name of openness, this rebellious thing. Okay, let me smoke, let me drink, and let
Yeah.
me do whatever I want. And I have seen that extreme category also.
I
So
am a subject of to that. I got into methamphetamines and did all kinds of and drank like a fish. Yes, I totally know what you're talking about.
yeah,
Sorry,
so
I'll let you ask your question.
no, no, no. I drink like a fish caught my attention. Yes, I
Yeah.
have seen that. So I've seen people because this is where is the mindfulness enters into the picture, Stevie. Like,
Mm,
someone is extreme into religion that they're like obsessed with it.
yep.
Some end up with opposite, like, okay,
Yep.
let me do this, let me do that. They're not doing because they want to show that I can be a rebellious thing, and whom do you want to prove? I don't know. They want to
Yep.
so such people also at one point, now they have the like identity issues, like I am not belonging to my religion, and
That's right.
I have arrived at such an extreme stage of my life, man. I don't know what is happening with me. Such people come to you as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Because I mean, that's exactly why I'm here, because I want to be the person, I want to be there for the person I was when I was, 20 something, and I had to go through that. Look, you have both sides. I have met people
Yes.
who were the drug addicts and the just alcoholics, and you name it, who got into religion and then they became religious fanatics. And then you've got the ones that have been stuck in religion forever and they get out, like you said, and they rebel and they become the drug addicts and the
Yeah.
alcoholics and all that stuff too. So you have both extremes, and on both extremes, as you're saying, it's because the person doesn't know themselves. They haven't had the opportunity. Like the person who's been stuck in a religion their whole life and they just want to express themselves and get out. They're like a bottle. Like you just shook a soda bottle and they just want to pop, right? And so what are they going to do when they get out of their parents' house? They're going to pop. They're going to try everything. They're going to go all over, and they don't have a solid sense of self and mindfulness around who they are and who they want to be, because they haven't been allowed to even explore or even pick. Like I wasn't allowed to pick my own friends. I wasn't allowed to talk the way I wanted. I wasn't allowed to even have the dreams I wanted to, because it was like, you're just going to get married and you're going to have kids and that's what you're going to do. So it was like, whoa, look at the world. There's so much to experience, right? And then you've got the other ones, as I was saying, the drug addicts, the alcoholics who come in, they're like, oh, look at all of this control. And, it's the opposite of what I've experienced, which was jail and drugs and everything. So I want every little aspect of it. It's because they don't know themselves on either end. And they're not, like you said, that middle path where there's an actual solid self-confidence, real self-confidence, not pride, not trying to prove yourself, but true love for yourself, true knowing who you are, true knowing how to express yourself in the world, and allowing that to continue and grow, and being strong that you'll never, ever, ever be exactly where you want to be, because you're just going to go to another level, and then you're going to go to another level, and that's okay, as long as you really truly feel that love for yourself and you've got the control that you need, or at least I guess not control, but the values that you want to have in place, so that you do pick the friends and the relationships and the job and the career and the lifestyle that really does suit you, not for someone else, and not for your drugs, not for your God, not for anything else. It's you that has to have that solid understanding. And that's why people go crazy.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there is a little more sensitive question. I'm wantedly using this word. This is a deliberate usage of the word sensitive because that is how the system is now, Stevie. So
Yes.
there are people almost like, there was this girl who was telling like, Nizam, I am like a walking time bomb. I don't know when I'm gonna explode because I'm filled with this guilt.
Yeah.
Prior to marriage, I had some relationship, and now I feel I'm cheating on my husband, and then I'm 100% sure I'm gonna be punished. I'm being watched. I feel this guilt and this and that, and she cannot express with anyone. She cannot share with anyone. Could be like he or she, doesn't matter. Here the thing is about the being punished, guilt, and
Yep.
sin. This is like internally boiling them, Stevie. And trust me, they are not able to sleep peacefully. They are not able to socialize, and they lock themselves up.
Yep.
Guilt, guilt, guilt.
Yes. Yes.
So they try to. Now they don't know what to do with it, and the health is impacting to the core. To the core.
Oh yeah.
So this kind of I'm a sinner. I'm a sinner. I'm a sinner. So
Yes.
please tell about such things. Like, and I want you to share some, of course, some case study like of whom you helped with the guilt and
Sure.
how they healed and what happened with them next.
Yeah, well, that's a good question. There's a lot of different experiences. Let me start with this. The thing about guilt and the thing about the shame and the feeling bad about themselves. So clearly, whatever this woman that you just talked about has gone through, she's got relationship issues. There's a lack of communication, or there's a lack of bonding, or that sort of thing between the two of them. So if she were to continue feeling guilt over and over and over, as she was, and she says she feels like a ticking time bomb, she's going to have somatic issues, like she's going to have stomach ulcers, anxiety, all this stuff's going to start happening in her life. Her body will start to break down because trauma is stored in the body. So same thing that happens with my clients. So I had for instance, I had a gentleman from Abu Dhabi, and he was a younger man, but he was at marriageable age, and he was experiencing a lot of guilt and a lot of trauma, obviously from the way that he was raised, because he didn't feel good enough about himself and all that stuff. But the worst part for him in particular was that he had used prostitutes a few times in his life. Okay, for instance. So he's walking around with all this guilt, and his family's wanting him to get married. And, and this is okay. It's years ago. So he's now married and happy and all, he's all that sort of thing. But the guilt that he had, obviously it wasn't helping him to actually be able to connect with this new potential wife that he was dating. And it was causing him a lot of problems, a lot of mental problems, a lot of emotional upset and all that sort of stuff. So again, we work with the feeling of guilt, the actual emotional feeling of guilt, and neutralize that feeling, not to make it so it's okay for him to go use prostitution. He didn't want to do that anymore, but he just had to know that it was okay, and reframe that. Okay, so you used a prostitute in the past because of your experience growing up the way that you did. Totally understandable. These things happen. So reframing it as now he can, and other people might think this is wrong, but the man needed to reframe it so that he could go, look, I did what I did because of the way I was raised, and it was the only option that I had. And also now I helped him reframe it so that it was like, now I know how to treat a woman. I have experience with women. I have experience with a woman's body. And now I'm not going to be completely clueless on my wedding night. And that just lifted that guilt off so much, and just his, spirit lifted. He was able to connect with her. He was able to talk to her. If I remember correctly, this is years ago now, if I remember correctly, he did end up telling her, and she was okay with it, and she was comfortable with it. And, they got married, and I haven't heard from him since. So there must be happily ever after, which is great.
Yeah.
There's more, I've had men addicted to porn. I've had women who couldn't have relations, couldn't even kiss a boy because they were so afraid of their own bodies, or, felt so sinful just doing it. And they're in their late 20s, and they want to, have a man and have family and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's a real, I can't use that word actually on this. I was going to cuss. I was going to say mind, you know what I'm saying? But it's tumultuous. Yeah.
Yes. And Stevie, I liked the way you used the word reframing, because a person has done something at that moment because of whatever the reasons, the kind of friends, the environment, or whatever
Yeah.
the circumstances. And that doesn't mean that one has to live in that guilt till their last breath.
No.
And thanks to the amazing work you are doing with this specific category of people who don't even know that what to do with the
Mm.
issues they are going through. And now comes one more question, Steve. Like this is for general public. Okay.
Yep.
So I don't want to relive the trauma that have gone through in the past.
Mm.
I don't want to even think about it. I don't even want to talk about it. So
Yep.
yes, I want to get healed.
Yep.
Yes, I want help, but I don't want to talk because it would re-traumatize. Okay.
Yep.
Yes, I want to, but these things might come up and I don't want to go through. So for such people,
Yeah.
because while I was sharing about your bio to the
Yeah.
audience, there was like you help people get out of their issues, and also you'll make sure that they don't get re-traumatized. What is this?
Yeah.
Do you have a magical wand or something? Like, what do you do, Steve? Tell me more
uh,
about your magical.
That's hilarious. I guess it's just been so many years of doing so many things with people and myself included that it really like the body mind system, the neurological system, does store things in a metaphorical pattern matching way.
Mhm.
So talking about the story and explaining it and all that stuff and making you cry again and everything that we've all had to go through with so many other styles of therapy. Again, it just as you said, it re-traumatizes. It keeps the person going in that thinking, feeling loop. So what has to happen, or at least what I do with people, is we take a look, like I help people explore their situation that they're in through a place of rightness first. So I have specific questions that I ask that gets them into that feeling of rightness. But typically, when it comes to actually getting rid of the trauma, you can find the trauma where it's at in the body utilizing things like submodalities, which are they're the way that your body stored it. It might be a smell, it might be a sound, it might be a color, it might be a feeling, it might be in your body, it might be outside over here to the right behind you. You can find where the body stored it without talking about the story.
Wow.
And once you do that and you get really clear about it and you figure out all that stuff around it, you can flip those around. You can work on it to flip those around. And I use things like phobia, sort of a mixture of timeline therapy with phobia releases and all sorts of stuff like that. So yeah,
That's
it's
your
hard to
magical
explain.
wand.
Yeah. And it's very much somatic. So it's very body mind experience. Yeah. It's not just someone talking about the problem.
Thanks to the latest research in the field of therapy, right, Stevie? So much is happening, so that really it is making a lot of difference. Earlier, like the Freud's psychodynamic approach, years and years and digging and digging and digging and digging and
Yes.
traumatization. My God, like a lot of
Yeah.
really grateful
Are
for
we
such
lucky that we
things.
didn't go through
Yes,
that?
yes, yes. And this one more question, like about the women not able to conceive, not
Mm,
able to be intimate with their life partner, and
yes.
feeling being with the guilt because of the childhood molestation or something, marriage, whatever the kind of life she has gone through. Yeah, and that is like somewhere not able to conceive. I've come across such situations as well. They will to help them go through that. Have you come across such people? Like, because now everything name they are not able to conceive. They're like king moms and the
Yes.
guilt and intimacy issues and
Yeah.
conception and with continuous thought that I will be punished. And their logic is so strong.
Yeah.
No, no, this is
Yeah.
what is going to happen to me. Forget about reframing, of course. It would happen over a period with the continuous sessions. But
Yeah.
with such a strong, deep rooted religious beliefs is
Yeah.
not allowing them to breathe
Yeah.
relaxedly. So, this.
A lot of women that I work with have this particular issue, and it's not necessarily, I can't say that it, I've really had someone come to me because they can't conceive
Conceive, yeah.
specifically. Mostly the women that I've worked with are just typically unable to enjoy pleasure with their partners in general. So I haven't had that yet, but I'm sure it will come. I'm sure the time will happen, but it still comes down to, yeah, their ability to believe in themselves and the rightness of themselves once again, because they are carrying too much shame, guilt, fear, and they, you know, they don't want to, they've somehow at some point cut themselves off from the opportunity potentially to have a child because they don't want to be like their mom, you know, or they don't want, they have made that decision like you're talking about. So yeah, again, I would typically, I would go through a series of questions to clarify where they've stored that, where they think, you know, and we use a bit of hypnotherapy as well. So they get out of their thinking brain, they get a bit relaxed and that sort of thing. So we can find the core reason, but we don't dig hard. We just,
Yes,
you know, it's about finding out why they decided they were wrong and why they decided they're going to stay wrong and that sort of thing, and getting rid of that. So coming from that rightness, I'm going to keep going back to that. It's religion teaches you you're wrong from the day that you're born.
You are a sinner.
You're a sinner.
Yeah.
You know, you don't deserve anything. You don't deserve the love of whatever deity you believe in. And you're lucky if you get some, you know, you get to be a part of this God's life, or, you know, get to be blessed by him, always a him. So, so yeah, it's all about changing that whole foundational belief system inside of yourself, inside of the body, to a place of rightness, that you're coming from a place of rightness, that you believe in your rightness. And then you can you can make new decisions when you actually come from that new foundation, and your life will change. You make new decisions, you have new beliefs, you have new behaviors, then that creates new habits and your life changes. So, yeah.
Thank you. And now comes the most challenging thing that certain people are going through, is about the gender issues. I wish I wouldn't have born as a woman. I wish I wasn't born as a man, you know, to go through all this shit. And then comes like, they have this gender conflicts inside. So what's your answer? Like, you know, because, you know, let's say women is not allowed to go out or dress in a particular way, or even she's not allowed to laugh freely, you know. Hey, come on, you have to sit in certain way. It does that. So now it's like, fuck, like I shouldn't have born as a woman. And sorry for that word, it just came out.
I was going to use that word a minute ago.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, it's not my show.
No, that has to. It just came out. So, like, now there is a conflict. Now they're not comfortable with, and that's where I have seen Stevie sort of gynec health issues have, like, you know, it impacted like men also. It impacted. I shouldn't have born as a man or a woman and this stuff, and not comfortable at all being a woman or a man. So, what's your advice there?
Well, it depends on the person again, because if they don't, I mean, if this person really has the desire, let's say it's a man who has the desire to be a woman, and
no, it is not desire to change their sex. No, that is a different part. It is about no, they feel not. They have this question: why did I born as a woman? I shouldn't have been born as a woman. Why am I a man? I shouldn't have born as a man. It was good if I were, you know, a woman, or like that. That specific question.
Yeah, it's good. This is a good question, because I get it a lot in my YouTube video comments about, about how, because I talk a lot about the misogyny of the whole religious, you know, field, the whole the planet's religious overhanging is this men ruling on everyone. And so if you have a man who maybe is born and he is more vulnerable naturally, he is a bit softer hearted, he is, you know, and he has a father, for instance, who's just a hard ass, and he's just like on him all the time, and maybe he's a military, who knows. So if this guy came to me and he just really disliked being a man in general, didn't know how to be one, or just didn't want to be like his father, but yet wanted to be a little bit, maybe a bit more of a, I guess, guy, bloke, if you will, so that he could go after, I don't know, whatever his reason is. I'm going to come back to the same thing. You're going to be like, you're a broken record. He feels wrong. That's the answer. He feels wrong. His parents made him feel wrong. His belief system made him feel wrong. His foundation is that he is wrong. And so whatever he does, whether it be that he's too soft or he's too hard or he's whatever, this, a tough guy or a soft guy, it's all about the wrongness. And that's what we have to go into, and we have to fix that bit so that he feels right in who he is right now. And that new person, again, when you come from that place of rightness, when you start to change that belief and embody that belief, well, then the behavior changes, and then the personality changes, and then the habits and the lifestyle and everything else starts to change, Yeah.
What I understood with conversation is, doesn't matter what kind of issue a person comes, again, it boils down to work towards the solution. And this might be funny, but yet for certain people it matters a lot. See, I'm a vegetarian, Stevie, from the past 2 decades, but I don't care. I don't care at all if a person is eating non-vegetarian food or vegetarian food. It's none of my business. But here comes, because there is a religious involvement here. Like some people, they want to eat non-vegetarian food, but their religion restricts them from having non-vegetarian food, and then comes the guilt part.
Yes.
They do it what they want. At that time, they are absolutely fine. They eat it, and then comes the logical part, and they go through. Even the food is, religion is intentional. Man, every is like everywhere.
I know.
I want to dress, religion. I want to love, religion. I want to sit in certain way, religion. So
it's that wrongness again.
Here comes your advice part. Like, what's your advice? Like,
Yeah, well, you've got a set of rules. You've got a set of certain rules. You have to decide. You have to go, okay, well, who gave me these rules? Who really actually gave me these rules? It's either a parent, a peer, an adult. It's some adult of some. No kid. The kid comes into the world and drinks mother's milk, and then goes on to whatever food source the parent gives them after that. So when it comes to, let's just put it this way: religions across the planet, overarching, all of them have created such ridiculous rules around living life that it's pretty much impossible to get it right, no matter which one you pick or which one you're in. It doesn't matter, because you're going to feel wrong and you're going to feel bad about something because there's so many rules, and sometimes the rules get blurred as well. Like the Catholic religion, for one thing, sorry to pick one specifically, but they decide that, they change their rules often. Depends on the year, whatever, the Pope or whatever, but they just change the rules when they feel like it. And then other religions go into different sects, as I said before, and when I say it's SECTS, sects, different religious groups. You've got so many different types of Christians, so many different types of Muslims, so many different types of everything. Each one of those has their set of food rules. Each one of those has their set of sex rules. Each one of those has their set of relationship or rules, on how to pray and what to pray and all that sort of stuff. You're going to mess up. There's nothing that you can do 100% right. As far as food goes, I choose a vegetarian diet for my own health. I grew up on a cattle ranch.
Not by a rule.
It's not by a rule. It's by health. It's because I grew up on a cattle ranch. I butchered animals myself. I ate them my whole life until I went to college, and I got to college. I read a book about vegetarianism, and I went to India and experienced it, and I felt better. Simple. And when I go home, my parents know I don't eat meat. That's all right. My husband's a vegetarian, and that's just the way it is. And they laugh about it and they might tease us, but the true fact of the matter is we're actually just healthier. So,
It's
but
just a
there's no
choice.
rule. Yeah, it's a choice. It's a choice, and it should be anyone's choice, because everybody's body is a little bit different as well. This is why working with trauma, there's different styles and methods that we can use, but your body, that person's individual body, has stored it in its own place. Not everybody stores stress in their shoulders. Some people store it in their womb. Some people store it in their gut. Some people in their back. Like everyone's different. And so the same thing happens with food, right?
Thanks for your patience and answering all the questions. And I promise this will be my last question, Steve, for this interview.
Sure.
Do you believe in God?
Good question. Wow, it's a big one.
Because I wanted to conclude that, because here, friends, let us clarify. We are not against religions or pro-religions. It's all about what the purpose of this discussion and why I approached Stevie is extremism of this side or that side is not good. So how you can liberate yourself? I just want to use the word here, to liberate yourself from the guilt and the rules, right? That is where we are talking about. So that's the purpose, and that's the reason I wanted to ask this as a last question, like, do you believe in God, Devi?
Great question. So I don't believe in God in the same way, I suppose, that I would have as a younger girl. So I don't believe that God is a man. I don't believe that he lives in heaven, and I don't believe in hell or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Do I believe in the force, the matrix, the connection, and the magnetism, if you will, of the collective? Yes, I do, definitely. And I know from my own experience that it's very, very real for me, because I know that I can dream a dream, think a thought, and that thing can happen and has happened many, many times in my life. I went to Europe a few years ago, and I ended up at a castle that I dreamed of when I was a little girl. And I couldn't believe, and I said, one day I'm going to go there. One day I'm going to go there. And we literally had no plans of going there. We just ended up in the middle of Italy somewhere, and the castle was there. And it was the same one from the movie that I watched that I said I wanted to go to when I was a little, like a 6-year-old. And many times in my life, these things have happened. In India, I had so many experiences of deja vu, where I was I was talking to people, or an eagle came over and it like grabbed my hair as I was walking down a path, and then it flew in front of me, and I had already experienced that before. So it was like a deja vu. So I feel personally that there's a collective energy, a universal energy, and that sort of thing. And I think that quantum physics, I believe in energy, frequency, and vibration. Let's put it that way.
Right. Thank you. And thanks for clarifying that. God doesn't have to be specifically, gender based, that it is him or that. God doesn't have gender. And my only logic is like, yes, when there is a creation, there is a creator. So yes, I also believe in this source of creation for sure, but not trying to fit the source of creation into a gender. So.
That's right. A gender or a place that's like outside the world. Anytime you're placing your hope and your everything outside, like of even the world, the universe, like you have to understand, even our own earth has an energy and a vibration and a lot of magic. I mean, the planet is phenomenally magic. Have you ever learned about water by itself? Like Dr. Emoto and water?
Yes.
The earth is like, and you watch the movie Avatar, we need to realize that right here on this very planet, not only are we biologically, created to depend and rely on nature and find awe within nature and beauty within nature and spirituality within nature. When you go outside of yourself to try to get something to happen, you're never going to get anywhere. It's like trying to rely on somebody to be a certain way so that you can get something out of them. It's never going to happen. So you have to come from within, and understand that all the forces of nature, the beauty of nature, and everything else is working towards your greater good with you.
Thank you. That was a very open heart conversation about all this highly sensitive topics. It's good to be open and be vocal about it, Stevie. So let a lot of awareness get spread that, hey guys, you're not alone. The help is
That's right.
available. So what I'm gonna do is, Stevie, I'll be using your website and YouTube channel links and other things, like whoever is watching this interview, they want to get in touch for the personal help who are going through this, they can reach out to you for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just go to stevienoah.com and book a breakthrough call. And yes, I'd be more than happy. It's a 45-minute conversation, and we deep dive into that person and what they're going through, and and I'll explain what I do and how I do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank
Thank
you
you,
once
Neelam.
again, Stevie.
Yeah. Thank you so much.